are listening to 106.7 Wilmington's Big Talker, and my name is Paul Vallone. I'd like to welcome you to Guns, Politics, and Freedom, where each Sunday at 5 p.m., as part of the Sunday Night Political Power Block, we give you the ammunition to better defend your gun rights. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Hyatt Guns, America's largest gun shop. Check them out at hyattguns.com. In case you aren't familiar with me, I direct Grassroots North Carolina, or GRNC, since 1994, our state's most effective gun rights organization. As its director, I was involved in drafting and passing our original concealed handgun law. Since then, GRNC has gone on to engineer passage of concealed handgun reciprocity, our purchase permit bypass, Castle Doctrine and Stand Your Ground, the expansion of concealed carry into state and municipal parks, restaurants, public assemblies, educational properties, and much more. Grassroots North Carolina is exactly what the name implies, a grassroots collection of people from all walks of life who share a common concern that our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms are being eroded. Check us out at grnc.org. That's grnc.org. So, did you have a good Thanksgiving, enjoying all our American traditions? Personally, I watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, then I stuffed myself with a big turkey dinner with my family. A true exercise in family bonding through Americana. Unfortunately, however, I'm told that makes me, and you, racists. You are especially racist if part of your tradition involves a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. According to the publication The Hill, and I quote, "The scene in question has four characters from Charles M. Schulz's iconic Peanuts cartoon: Sally, Charlie Brown, Peppermint Patty, and Dog Snoopy sitting on one side of a makeshift outdoor table for Thanksgiving dinner, with Marcy at one end of the table and Linus at the head. The cartoonist's lone black character, Franklin, is on his own side of the table, seated in a lawn chair." Comicbook.com was the first to flag the reactions to the scene on social media. Oh no, racism is everywhere. You see, the problem here is that apparently Franklin was seated by himself and on a lowly lawn chair. Never mind, of course, that cartoonist Charles M. Schulz, back in 1971, 47 years ago, added the black character as a blow against racism. Never mind that when asked by the head of the cartoon's publisher, United Feature Syndicate, if he was sure he wanted to add a black character, Schulz reportedly replied, "Either you run it the way I drew it, or I quit." And never mind that in a 1972 strip, Schulz depicted Franklin on the same side of the table as everybody else. Nope, according to the woke movement, not awakened, but woke. Can't they at least get the syntax right? No, according to what I suppose we should call, and I have to give my wife credit where credit is due, what we should call a plague of wokists, we must dump the Christmas specials, trash the parade floats, and exorcise Peanuts from our culture because Charlie Brown is a racist. And speaking of racist Thanksgiving, academia is also weighing in. Genocide, poverty, and hunger, oh my. They say, genocide, poverty, hunger, what are you celebrating? So asked the University of Oregon at its forum entitled Thanks But No Thanksgiving, Decolonizing an American Holiday. Decolonizing. Genocide, poverty, hunger, oh my. Anyways, meanwhile, at the University of Colorado Boulder's Center for Democratic Engagement, shouldn't that be socialistic engagement? Anyways, a toolkit on their website gave students, quote, talking points such as, In a sense, colonization of North America is an ongoing occupation. That's the quote. In a sense, colonization of North America is an ongoing occupation. Apparently, however, not all of those who have been occupied seem to have gotten the message that they are, well, occupied. Right here in North Carolina on Highway 441, leading to the Cherokee Indian Reservation, there is a huge billboard wishing everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And who signed the happy Thanksgiving message? Why, Richard Sneed, Principal Chief of ECBI. That would be the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. Thank you, Richard. Well, here's the bottom line, folks. The leftists will not be satisfied until they have destroyed each and every last vestige of American culture. Nothing less will do. So, I want you to understand something right now and to act accordingly. Nothing you can give them will placate them. Compromise, as the left defines it, is a process in which you might lose slightly less than under their original proposal, but make no mistake, you still lose. When you give them that half a loaf, they will be back for the other half in short order, or more likely half of the other half and then half of that, until by the time you're done, you will have next to nothing. In this case, next to nothing on our American culture. So I strongly suggest you give them nothing. When it comes to defending American culture, compromise on nothing. Not on a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. Not on Columbus Day, named after that exploiter of the Native Americans. And no, not even on Silent Sam and the monuments to the Confederacy that has the left so up in arms. Defend American culture. Concede nothing. Give them nothing. Oh, and a final note for our first segment of the show. A new trend is emerging among gun control advocates who now want to restrict not only your ability to own guns, but also your ability to speak freely. According to Fox News, in the state of New York, proposed Senate Bill 9191 mandates, quote, social media and search engine reviews prior to the approval of an application or renewal of a license to carry or possess a pistol or revolver, requires a person applying for a license to carry a pistol or possess a pistol or revolver or a renewal of such license to consent to having his or her social media accounts and search engine history reviewed and investigated for certain posts and or searches over a period of 1 to 3 years prior to the approval of such application or renewal. As much as I would like to say that stands about an icicle's chance in hell of passing, this is, after all, the People's Republic of New York we are talking about. Never mind, of course, that this restricts not only your Second Amendment rights, but also your First Amendment right to free speech. Never mind that this would subject you to the most arbitrary and undoubtedly politically flavored criteria for denying you the ability to own guns. But of course, this is the sort of thing the left has in mind for us all, the most Orwellian possible control. In our next segment, we are honored to have as our guests Ben Wolfgram, owner of a company called BenShot, and Chelsea Priest, Ben's charming Director of Public Relations and Marketing. Now, you may have heard about BenShot since their story went viral in national media. This pro-gun company decided this year to give all of its employees a Christmas gift. But not just your average Christmas gift. Specifically, each employee got a handgun for Christmas, and training to go with that handgun, I should note. But we'll hear more about that from Ben Wolfgram himself and from Chelsea. But I would like to tell you about an opportunity you have. An opportunity to give the gift of freedom this Christmas. BenShot makes very unique glassware with bullets embedded in the side. And to simultaneously support both a gun rights organization and a pro-gun business, I'm going to suggest that you take advantage of what I call a threefer. You can give unique gifts to your friends and family, specifically a glass with a bullet embedded in the side, including right up to and including a 50 BMG bullet. How cool is that? And you can also support both a gun rights organization, Grassroots North Carolina, and a pro-gun company, Benshot. More on that when we return from our break. Right now, you are listening to Guns, Politics, and Freedom on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7, WilmingtonBigTalker.com. We're going to take a short break, after which we will return with still more critical information enabling you to better defend your gun rights. My name is Paul Ballone, and you are listening to Guns, Politics, and Freedom today on Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7, WilmingtonBigTalker.com. Our show is sponsored by Hyatt Guns, America's largest gun shop. Check them out at HyattGuns.com. On our show, we like to feature companies that support the Second Amendment in order that you may support those who support your rights. Benshot is one such company, and today we are honored to have as our guests one of the owners of Benshot, Mr. Ben Wolfgram, and his Director of Public Relations, Chelsea Priest. Ben and Chelsea, welcome to Guns, Politics, and Freedom.
Hey, thank you.
Hey.
Okay, thanks very much for coming on today. I know you guys have been pretty busy. Ben, you own the company Benshot, or you're one of the two co-owners, I guess. Why don't you tell people what Benshot does?
Yeah, so Benshot is a father and son team. My dad's Bruce. He's the other co-owner. And we take bullets and we embed them in glassware.
Okay. And so you embed them in glassware, and as I understand it, a number of these glasses have some pretty pro-patriotic type messages on them and pro-police type messages. You do customize those messages periodically, do you not?
Yes, sir. We work with a lot of police departments and fire departments. We do thin blue line and thin red line glasses for the different departments, and we also do a lot of flag etches on the glass.
Very nice. And by the way, I guess with both you guys on, take the questions as you normally take them. I understand that you do most of these interviews together, so have at it. Whoever wants to answer the question, I guess, and you guys know what your shtick is. All right, so bullets embedded in glassware. Now, that's the sort of thing the media would ignore, but you have recently gotten widespread national media coverage. Please tell me, why is that exactly?
Yeah, so when we decided that we wanted to do the guns as Christmas gifts for all the employees, we figured it would be the perfect opportunity to share with people. We don't know if we expected it to get national, and also we got some international coverage on our story, but we really just wanted to share with people about Benshot, about our beliefs as a company, and then also about our Christmas gifts, and it really blew up for us in a good way. So it's been a pretty cool experience. These past 2 weeks have been definitely something that will go down in our company's history for sure.
Okay, so you decided to give employees handguns for Christmas. Now, that isn't the sort of thing that most companies do, even many of those who value the Second Amendment. Exactly what was your rationale? Why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, so what we wanted to do, for me, I wanted to make sure that my employees were safe. So that was the biggest thing. So what we did was we allowed all the employees to choose a handgun that fit them best. And then the other part that I thought would be good would be team building. So now that we all have guns, we can go to the shooting range together and this kind of thing and do some team building.
That is awesome. That's absolutely fantastic. So you basically, what you're saying is that you have you're making your employers safer by allowing them to protect themselves and potentially, I suppose, their work environment, since that seems to be a big issue lately. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say so. Basically, our biggest, like Ben said, our two biggest things was keeping our employees safe and then just having a fun, memorable gift. And our employees are allowed to carry at work if they have their concealed carry, and we obviously encourage that.
Nice. Instead of the usual gun buster sign and the supposedly gun-free zone of a work environment that actually, I think we would probably all agree, attracts violent predators, since every time we seem to have one of these active shooter scenarios, it always occurs in a supposedly gun-free zone. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the biggest thing is I don't think after our story making national news we're going to have issues with that, since everyone knows that everyone here has a new gun. So
yeah, there won't be it won't be a sitting duck situation. We'll be quacking.
Yeah, I know personally when I got my gun, the first thing I did was, well, one, I sent Ben a photo of it, and then two, I just told him, thank you for encouraging me personally, like, not to be a victim, because you never know what can happen. And now that I personally have a handgun that I can take with me places or keep in my apartment with me, I'm no longer, like Ben said, a sitting duck, and I can defend myself and protect my family if needed.
Oh, can we clone you guys and make maybe several million of you? Because that is a message that I can't seem to get other people to understand. And I spend a lot of time at the North Carolina General Assembly, and people just don't get it. They won't get it. They refuse to get it. So it's really refreshing to hear somebody that understands the situation that way. Now, according to the news accounts you have, and you've said here, you've been inundated with input, and according to the news accounts, not all of it has been pleasant. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we do get a couple emails and a couple phone calls from people that didn't agree with this decision. You're always going to have some of that, but I think that they just have a different viewpoint of how to address violence. For us, we want to be able to defend ourselves.
Well, I think the thing that I find remarkable is that this is a decision you and your employees have made. They are free to decline the gift if they don't feel it's in their best interest, or if they really didn't agree with you, they would be free to work someplace else. So this is an agreement you have made between your employees and yourselves. What I question is why anybody else would want to weigh in negatively on that and tell you not to do it, since really it doesn't impact them. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, we definitely agree. I think those people who feel the need to put their 2 cents in on kind of our decision are the same people who are looking for an overall solution to this so-called gun violence or gun issue that we have in America. But I think they just kind of need to understand that there's never going to be a resolution to this so-called gun issue. You either choose to defend yourself, which our company and our employees are choosing to do, or you're on the opposite end where you don't want to and you're against it. But I think our biggest message is just people knowing that whether we're giving everyone guns or we're taking everyone's guns away, there's never going to be an overall solution. It's not, obviously, we hear it all the time for people who are pro-gun, it's not the gun that is causing the violence, it's the person holding it. And evil's always going to be there, so if we need to protect ourselves in the here and now, then we're going to do so, and we're going to back the Second Amendment through it all.
Hear, hear. Once again, I want to clone you guys. But, I think I've been at gun rights activism for 25 years now, and it seems to me that in many cases they're not even really interested in reducing violence when they want to ban firearms. It's more of a matter of control. Gun owners are, by and large, far too independent for most of them, and so consequently they want to render you less independent by taking this particular option away from you, the option for self-protection. But that's just me. I won't necessarily require you to go on record on that if you don't want to. We wouldn't want you to scare away any prospective customers here. So how exactly how did your employees react to this fairly remarkable gift they got?
Yeah, they were excited. They were very excited when we talked about it. They had some questions like what were the restrictions on the guns? And there were a couple of people that didn't want to get a gun. One employee, she said that her husband has enough guns. He doesn't need another one. And the other employee, she said that she didn't feel like she would use it. So for her, she would like something else. So for them, we gave them Visa gift cards so they could buy what they like too.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. See, once again, I think this tends to be true of Second Amendment supporters in general and conservatives in general, that we are sort of live and let live people. Oh, you don't feel that's the right solution for you? Okay, well, I'm not going to try and impose a solution on you. You decide what's best for you. That, of course, I think is what it certainly motivates me to gun rights activism, and I suspect probably a lot of other people as well. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this to my audience here. Grassroots North Carolina will be selling your glasses via our website at grnc.org, where they can either get your 11-ounce rocks glass with the embedded .308 bullet, or the pint beer glass embedded with and I love this one, the 50 BMG bullet. Each one will be inscribed with our mascot, Max, which is a pit bull with a constitution clenched between his teeth, daring anyone to try and take it. Better yet, I'm going to tell people you can get your glasses, your Ben Shot glasses, at a discounted price until Monday morning, November 26th, by going to grnc.org. That's grnc.org. I call this a threefer because you truly get a unique gift for friends and family while supporting both a gun rights organization and a pro-gun company. That's grnc.org. Ben and Chelsea, I would like to thank you for joining us today and wish you a Merry Christmas and success in your ventures. Thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Been a pleasure. Bye-bye now.
And now we will be right back after a short break. My name is Paul Vallone, and you are listening to Guns, Politics, and Freedom today on Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7, WilmingtonBigTalker.com. Our show is sponsored by Hyatt Guns, America's largest gun shop. Check them out at HyattGuns.com. In this segment of our show, we will look at the next 2 or more years under a Democrat-controlled United States House of Representatives, including what the Democrats have in mind for gun owners. Rest assured, they aren't wasting any time in coming after your guns. According to the Daily Wire, and I quote, Representative Mike Thompson, Democrat, California, told the Wall Street Journal last week that he intends to immediately push for the universal background check legislation, which would require gun retailers and gun sellers to register, I say again register, all gun purchases through the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or NICS. As soon-to-be Speaker Nancy Pelosi, of course, has already promised to make those universal background checks her top priority. Listen very carefully to what Representative Thompson is proposing. Remember all those times you were told that NICS isn't a de facto gun registration system? Remember all the times we've been told they've tried to add all gun transfers to NICS? Remember all the times they've talked about the reasonableness of so-called universal background checks? Well, the veil has been lifted, folks. This is what they really want. Universal gun registration. And they want universal gun registration because, frankly, you can't effectively ban what you can't find. And universal registration is their means for locating what they plan to ban in the future. If you have any doubts about that, ask the residents of the state of New York who are now getting orders to turn in guns after passage of the misnamed SAFE Act. And speaking of banning guns, the same Daily Wire article notes, and I quote, newly elected Democrat Representative Lucy McBath of Georgia is a former spokeswoman for Everytown for Gun Safety. That would be Michael Bloomberg's AstroTurf gun control organization. The nation's leading gun control advocacy organization, and is likely to join the push for a national gun registry and a national ban on assault-style firearms, even though Democrats have difficulty explaining what an assault weapons ban would outlaw. No doubt it would outlaw everything they could. Please note that McBath doesn't represent one of the usual gun ban republics, but instead the usually pro-gun state of Georgia.
What we are going to see is 1994 all over again. In fact, CNN has just today started softening up the public in eager anticipation of the Democrats' gun ban agenda. This morning, CNN featured a piece called Global Lessons on Guns, a lengthy propaganda piece hosted by Fareed Zakaria, which regurgitates all of the long-debunked gun control memes, including, well, let's see, never mind that 2 Supreme Court decisions affirmed an individual right to bear arms. You really don't have a right to keep and bear arms, they say. That is only a recent bit of propaganda foisted on the American public by the NRA and a few right-wing judges. Then they go on to say, gun control is the American way. In previous centuries, America had lots of gun control, they claim. The Supreme Court upheld such gun control. Never mind that in truth the only Supreme Court decision dealing with the Second Amendment was U.S. v. Miller, 1939, which actually affirmed a right to own militia-type weapons, this despite the fact that the accused, Jack Miller, had actually skipped bail before the trial. Anyways, then CNN goes on to say that America has a high rate of multiple victim public shootings and that higher gun homicide rates than other countries, while of course they carefully avoid citing non-gun homicide rates, and they fail to mention that cross-control comparisons were debunked 20 years ago due to all sorts of confounding variables. The fact is, you cannot simply compare gun control and gun violence across different cultures without controlling for a host of other variables. Then they go on to say the well-regulated militia means subject to regulation, ignoring that as defined by the framers and affirmed by the High Court, well-regulated in 18th century parlance meant well-drilled or well-trained. The fact is the framers had seen the kings of England allow the militia to fall into disrepair deliberately in order to form private armies or select militias. Then they go on to say we should be more like Japan, where private ownership of weapons is and has been for centuries completely banned, while failing to mention that individual rights in Japan are equally unknown, and as documented in David Kopel's book, The Samurai, the Mountie, and the Cowboy, Should America Adopt the Gun Controls of Other Democracies? Japan has a system whereby small police stations are placed in neighborhoods to routinely monitor all of the activities of citizens. Is that what the left really has in mind for us? Then, of course, they parrot Hillary Clinton in touting Australia, which in the 1990s severely curtailed private gun ownership, including a massive gun confiscation scheme. But Fareed Zakaria and CNN have one thing right when, pointing to the Me Too movement and others, they point out that, quote, you can have a social movement that occurs fast. Realizing that incremental restriction on gun rights that they've pursued for decades is failing, as more and more people have gotten concealed handgun permits and actually begun to understand what is at stake, including their ability to protect themselves and their families, they now want a lightning strike that will ban guns before you can do anything about it. But, you say, the Republicans still control the Senate and the White House. Won't they stop Nancy Pelosi and company? Don't bet on it. History is full of gun control passed as the result of Republican compromises. Remember what I said about compromise? Compromises that resulted in gun control right up to and including both the Brady Act and the so-called assault weapon ban. Ask former Senator and Compromiser-in-Chief Bob Dole, who engineered the agreement that made the semi-auto ban possible. What you will see is sweeping gun control passed in the U.S. House, supported by all the usual leftists in the media, which will then place horrendous pressure on the Senate to compromise. Rhinos in the Republican Party will run scared, adding additional pressure to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to compromise. And if it gets to the president's desk, don't necessarily bet on Trump to veto it. Although he has done reasonably well so far, Trump's history includes support for gun control, including such things as semi-auto bans and so-called universal background checks. I say again, we are back in 1994 with the added danger that, as represented by Antifa, the Me Too movement, MoveOn.org, Black Lives Matter, and others, the left is not only more strident than ever, but also better organized and far more acceptable to the so-called mainstream left-wing politicians and media. Mark my words, you heard it here. If we don't exercise extreme vigilance and organization for the next 2 years, we will end up forever saddled with draconian restrictions to our gun rights. And of course, it won't end there. CNN was kind enough to telegraph the next moves of the left when it said that difficulty in passing gun control has resulted from the fact that rural areas are, quote, overrepresented in our political system. Overrepresented. That is becoming a popular meme for the left and is, in fact, what I overheard myself in a conversation between leftists after the elections when I had the misfortune to be required to be in the People's Republic of California. They were lamenting that Democrats didn't take over both chambers of Congress because, after all, there were supposedly more Democrats than Republicans who voted. In our democracy, they said, and it was almost more than I could bear not to remind them of the difference between a democracy and a republic, but never mind that. In our democracy, they said, the fact that each state has 2 senators, regardless of population, is, quote, unfair, end quote. Like calls for eliminating the Electoral College, what you are hearing is yet another leftist power grab, wherein places like California will, if they have their way, run your life, no matter where you live. Right now, we're going to take a short break, but when we return, we will hear from someone who reminds us that all is not lunacy and that if we do our job, saner heads may yet prevail. Meanwhile, you are listening to Guns, Politics, and Freedom on Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7 WilmingtonBigTalker.com. After our break, we will return with more critical information enabling you to better defend your gun rights. My name is Paul Vallone, and you are listening to Guns, Politics, and Freedom today on Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7, WilmingtonBigTalker.com. Our show is sponsored by Hyatt Guns, America's largest gun shop. Check them out at HyattGuns.com. In the closing segment of our show today, I would like to highlight a video forwarded to me, specifically comments by Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin, as he responds to a gun control advocate at a forum hosted by the American Enterprise Institute. I want you to contemplate the wisdom of his remarks contrasted against not only the knee-jerk reaction of the leftists who continuously push gun control, but also, unfortunately, with the mindless leftism of our own Democrat Governor Roy Cooper, who has repeatedly come out for red flag laws, semi-auto bans, restricting firearms to people on the terrorist watch list who've been convicted of nothing, and much more. So here he is, Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin.
Hi, my name is Evan Davies, and I'm just an independent consultant. I'm not affiliated with any organization. I really admire the work that you're doing to help foster children, and you've said a number of times that, the children's lives is most important. We had a murder a little while ago where 17 people, including many kids, were murdered in their schools. And how do you reconcile the children's lives are most important, with the comments you've made to the media about it's naive and premature to talk about gun control, and that it's culture and not guns that is causing these horrible things?
I'll tell you exactly how I reconcile that. First of all, a month ago in Kentucky, we had a very similar situation. Made a very concerted effort to make sure that we removed the media circus from the healing process. So within 24 to 48 hours, you're probably not even aware, most people aren't, that I had a 15-year-old come into a school in Kentucky last month and shoot 16 children at point-blank range, 2 of whom died. A set of twins were both shot and taken to a level 1 trauma center. They lived. This is very real to me. I've sat with these families. You also probably are not aware of the fact that I've buried my oldest child. Died under different circumstances, but went to school and didn't come home. She was 17 years old. I know exactly, not exactly, it's not possible to know exactly what another person's going through, but I know exactly what it feels like to bury your oldest child. I know what the impact is on a family. I don't come at this with a sense of sympathy, but empathy. The point that I've made that's been largely misconstrued, I'll reaffirm with you and tell you exactly why it comes from, where it comes from. This idea, just as solving this issue is able to be solved with a single law or rule or change, is naive and delusional. And so we shouldn't allow ourselves to entertain naive and delusional thoughts. It is part of a broader construct, just as this issue is. And the point that I made, that I'll reiterate, is that if we think that a part of what we are seeing is not a cultural problem, we're kidding ourselves. And the point that I've made is this: what has shifted in the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years? It's not the percentage of guns that we find in homes. And you can give me a statistic that there's now more guns. Fair enough, I'll submit that that may be true. I'm not going to argue with you. But the reality is there's fewer homes that have guns in them than there were 50 years ago when children didn't walk into schools and shoot themselves and shoot each other. That's a fact. You can confirm that. But I'll tell you this. When I was a kid, kids brought guns to school. Kids brought guns on the school bus. Kids brought guns to school in their own vehicles. Kids didn't shoot each other with them. So some things have not changed. What has changed? We as a culture, as a society, and it's very germane to this topic as well, we don't value human life like we did. We remove increasingly respect for the dignity of other people. You look at how rampant pornography is, the degradation and disrespect for women and for human life in general. It is so systemic. People of our age have not been exposed like our children have been. There's not a child in America that hasn't been exposed to pornography, I guarantee you, if they're above the age of 12. That's a fact. It is so systemic, it's horrific. And it desensitizes us at every turn. And so we're desensitized to the value and dignity of human life. We're desensitized through, and this is to the heart of what I said that you seem to take exception with, is that through violent video games, where literally you are encouraged, and you can roll your eyes all you want, man, but I will say this. You explain to me the value of a game that encourages somebody to go back and finish him off, where you get points for kill counts, and you slaughter people. We're desensitizing people to the value of life. And we see it through the lyrics in music, and we see it through television shows, and we see it through movies. We see it in the fact that the mores of this nation have changed. And we see it through the fact that we increasingly want to remove any sense of moral authority from everything. I'll tell you again, we could have 1,000 sidebars, and you could agree or disagree as it relates to what I'm about to say. But in a nation where over the last 40 years, we've aborted 50-something million children, and we have multiple states with medically assisted suicide being provided by doctors. At both ends of the life spectrum, we're losing the value for life that we once historically had. You can say that's good, you can say it's bad, but it's a reality. You couple that with the fact that all these other things are changing, that we're removing any sense of authority. It used to be that you had different levels of authority starting in the home itself. Fully a third of children in a recent Pew study say that they have no interaction, for all intents and purposes, with their own parents. When their parents live in the home, they say their parents have no clue what they're even learning in school. There was a study recently and an article that was derived from that and other studies. It was in The Atlantic. I encourage you to look it up, about the impact. And again, you can smirk and you can smile, but as somebody who's an independent consultant, I find it remarkable that you're so smug and you're so disregarding of my opinion, when in fact I'm just trying to have an honest dialogue with you, based on a fair question. But I will say this. Look at this article in The Atlantic. This article in The Atlantic talks about how young people are increasingly becoming suicidal and depressed because of the use of social media and the use of these personal devices and on-screen time. All these are part of a cultural issue. And this cultural issue, if we're not addressing it, we are kidding ourselves, because it also affects this issue we came here to talk about today, which is why these homes are broken, why so many children are finding themselves in government care, which is not the best solution. The government should not be raising our children, period. It just shouldn't. The fact of the matter is, we need people in the position like I am. And I had this same conversation less than an hour ago with the President of the United States. And I said to him, he should, I should. This whole room was full of cabinet secretaries and governors of other states. Those of us that are in a position of influence and the ability to say something, shame on us if we don't step up and call people to a higher authority. And there will always be those, including many in the media, whoever the messenger is, they're going to find the imperfection in that messenger. So if the messenger says we should do X, Y, Z as it relates to this issue or adoption and foster care, people will say, well, who is this person? They're an imperfect person. Well, so is every one of us. There's not a perfect person in America, but that doesn't mean we don't strive for perfection. There's not a perfectly morally upright person in America. That doesn't mean we don't espouse and aspire to reach for moral higher authority and expect more and demand more of our children. Shame on us if we don't sound the alarm. You want to take any kind of morality and change the mores of a nation, remove any sense of higher responsibility, try to pin it on any one thing and assume the government and a piece of regulation and a rule is the solution, and then we're shocked when these things happen. We're kidding ourselves.
Now, before we sign off, I would like to again recommend you give the gift of freedom this Christmas by supporting both our state's main gun rights organization, Grassroots North Carolina, and a pro-gun company, BenShot, by ordering some of BenShot's glasses at grnc.org. Specifically, you can get either the 11-ounce rocks glass with embedded .308 bullet or the pint beer glass embedded with a .50 caliber BMG bullet, each inscribed with our mascot Max, a pit bull with the Constitution clenched in his teeth, daring anyone to try and take it. Better yet, you can get our glasses at a discounted price until Wednesday, November 28th by going to grnc.org. That's grnc.org. I call this a threefer. Get a truly unique gift for friends and family while supporting both a gun rights organization and a pro-gun company. Again, grnc.org. My name is Paul Vallone. You have been listening to Guns, Politics, and Freedom on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7, wilmingtonbigtalker.com, where each Sunday at 5 p.m. as part of the Sunday Night Political Power Block, we give you the ammunition to better defend your gun rights. Please check out our sponsor, Hyatt Guns, America's largest gun shop, at hyattguns.com. I also encourage you to check out my website at gunspoliticsandfreedom.com, where you can find either my writings or earlier editions of this show. That's gunspoliticsandfreedom.com. See you next Sunday at 5.